Quality control, the sample yardage. Make a little before a big mistake is made. As mentioned before, designers typically go through 3 stages of fabric development. The processes talked about in the prior section in part 1 were all done as a preliminary method to ensure color and also pattern. After that has been squared away, we go ahead and make sample yardage. It is a few yards before the bulk order. So what is sample yardage? Again, after a preliminary round of color quality control, a test or sample of the intended fabric will be made. The test run is called the sample yardage, and it is meant to inform the designer of what the final fabric from the bulk production will look, feel, and behave like. The amount of sample yardage made will depend on how large the bulk production will be, which a lot of times depends on how big the company is. Larger companies tend to produce more amount of product, and so will have larger bulk productions. This means that a sample yardage can range from only a few yards to a couple hundred yards. Sample yardage, testing for feel. The feel of a fabric is called its hand. The sample yardage will give designers a good idea of what the final fabric will feel like. Designers need to determine if the fabric feels the way it should. Some fabrics need to be soft or pleasant to touch, especially fabrics that will be worn next to the skin. The sample yardage will let designers know if the fabric will feel the way it needs to. If it doesn't, additional finishing methods may be chosen to soften the feel of fabric. Other more drastic measures, like altering the fiber content, may also be used. If needed, additional sample yardages will be made until the right hand feel is achieved. Drape. Sample yardage will also help designers determine if the fabric chosen for a garment or product will drape the way it needs to. As we've learned, fabric varies from stiff to limp, and different designs need fabric to have a certain limpness or stiffness. This will create different properties of the garment. In the image in the right, we see a very limp fabric on the left. See how it drapes in nice small folds but has less volume? As opposed to the fabric on the right, which is stiffer. It has much wider yet fewer drapes and has more volume. Garments with sharp shapes or big volume need a certain level of stiffness. Garments with flowing elements or small drapes need a certain level of limpness or flow. Sample yardage will help determine if different fabric is needed to achieve the right look for the garment or product, or if additional finishing is needed to alter the drape of the fabric. Again, additional or second rounds of sample yardage may be created until the desired drape is found. Sample garments. The sample yardage will also be used to make sample garments for the product. Most garments or products begin their life as a sketch made by a designer. Once the sample yardage for the garment or product is received, it can come to life. Sample garments and products will help the designer determine if the right fabric has been chosen for that specific item. The sample garments or products can also be used in fashion shows, promotional materials like line sheets or advertisements, and sample sales. Sample sales are done to determine how many of an item should be made for the bulk production. Many times fashion designers will hold sample sales made from their sample garments. The garments will be very cheap as compared to what they will cost, and a select few are invited to join the sample sale. Data is recorded on what garments in what colors sell well, and vice versa what do not. This will inform the designer what colors or styles should be made in greater numbers. Sometimes, if colors or items do not sell well, they will be dropped from the collection altogether. Next, we'll get into final testing.